You can't go out playing golf having fun.
Fun. Senor, you have obviously never played Wingfoot.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
You've got to be kidding me, Vegas. On Monday night. There's my picks for this week. Now, if you want next week's picks, I can give you those by Friday.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Week 10 of the Wingfoot Locks, brought to you by Wingfoot Sports. As always, I'm Joe Messeri. We've got Chris Portente and Greg Hoyle with us for today's podcast. However, we couldn't get our schedule straight, so they will be coming to us via a pre-recorded video feed, and I will be giving you my takes on their picks as we go throughout today's podcast. We're going to start today with Chris Portente, who has a lean in the Arizona Cardinals and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game as the Bucs host the Cardinals, 4.5-point favorites in Tampa. Chris, take it away.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Week 10 in the NFL. Last week, Week 9, we weren't spectacular. We held our own. We split our November trend games. We were spot on in both our Bettor Beware games, spot on. And as you know, of course, our Wingfoot lock, we didn't lose. We pushed, should have won, but we didn't win because all kickers suck. If that kicker hits his game-winning field goal, Seattle walks off with a 3-point win. We getting 6 points with Tampa Bay. Everybody's happy. Instead, they go to overtime, blah, blah, blah. You know the rest. But we don't live in the past here. We live in the future, so let's move on to Week 10, all right? We're going to start this week with the Arizona Cardinals, who are getting 4.5 points on the road from those said Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The line opened up at 6. I loved it at 6. It's already down to 4.5. I still like it at 4.5, but hopefully it doesn't go any lower. Get on it at 4.5, and here's why. The line opened up at 6, like I said, down to 4.5. But here's the big things you need to know. The Buccaneers, they're 0-5 in their last 5 home games. 1-4 against the spread in those games. 0-5 in their last 5 home games, okay? Now, they went into Seattle last week, okay, and they had optimal conditions because everything was trending towards them. All the numbers, they like to play there, the time zone, this, that. They had everything trending again for them. It's the reason why we put the hashtag on them last week. And still, they only were able to come up with a push. They still couldn't find a way to win. Okay, so now they're going home in a place where they haven't won in 5 games against a Cardinal team that I told you is real sneaky. They've been playing better than most people think and better than what their record says. Okay, and the Cardinals are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 road games. 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 road games. 6-3 against the spread overall. That's second best in the NFL. As far as covering the spread, the Arizona Cardinals are number 2 at doing that in the NFL. Okay, so for those reasons, I like the Cardinals and I like the points. I don't see Jameson coming back with 2 good games. He had a really good game last week, and again, still couldn't find a way to win. So take the points, take the Cardinals and the points in this one, and lock it up.
Okay, so here are my thoughts on this one. I think that Arizona is definitely the right side in this game. As Chris mentioned, the Cardinals, one of the best teams in the NFL against the spread this season. And obviously, they've had a little more rest coming off that Thursday night game against the San Francisco 49ers than the Bucs, who have to go cross-country from Seattle back to Tampa for this one. It's been a heck of a travel schedule for the Bucs. Now, we know that Jameis Winston is prone to turn the ball over. Patrick Peterson back. He obviously played in that Thursday night game against the San Francisco 49ers. I think that was a little bit of a knocking the rust off game for Peterson. I think that he gets a pick off Winston in this one. And look, the ball bounced the way of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quite literally, against the Seattle Seahawks when the touchdown that could have been an interception falls into the hands of a Bucs receiver that ends up pushing that game into overtime. And we end up losing because a kicker pushing because a kicker can't hit a field goal at the end of regulation. I think coming back home this week, the little extra rest for the Arizona Cardinals, plus possibly the return of David Johnson and the addition of Kenyon Drake, means that the Arizona Cardinals are able to keep this one within a field goal. If you're getting 4.5, as the case is currently, I say you got to jump on the Cardinals and roll with them as they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Our next game up for you is from Greg Hoyle. The Detroit Lions are headed to Chicago to take on the Bears. Greg has a play in this one. I'll let him take it from here. What do you like, Greg?
I'm going to take the points with Detroit on the road. I just really don't like this Chicago Bears offense, and the Detroit defense has been playing really well. So I think you get a team that, the Bears pretty much so they're kind of in a free fall, and now you got Mitchell Trubisky basically saying he wishes the media didn't speak about their team because they don't understand their team. That means that basically it's hard to explain why they're as bad as they are, and it's really difficult to explain it from the quarterback position. So I'm going +3. I get a lot more trust in the quarterback position there, and quite frankly, I think Nagy really has to. It's either Trubisky's so bad or Nagy hasn't made any adjustments from last year, or really just with a tougher schedule this year, they've come back down to earth. And Detroit's played better than I expected them to, and Stafford's been playing very well this year. So if I get 3 points in a division game, I'm going to take those 3 points. So that's going to be my selection there for Detroit.
Okay, Greg, I would love to be all over Detroit in this one with you, getting 3 in a division game. However, I cannot, only because Detroit's defense has been pretty terrible this season. And obviously, we know just a couple weeks ago they traded away one of their best players in their secondary over to Seattle. So I think that the Detroit defense is going to struggle in this one, but they don't have much to contain in that Bears offense that has struggled. Look, the play I would go in this one, the line has already moved down from 44 to 41 as far as the over-under is concerned. If I'm going to take a play in this one, I think I would probably go with the under 41 still. The line may have moved already too much for me to hop on that, though. However, I think that Detroit's defense, not enough to hold up to the Bears. I look for them to actually put up some points. They seem to figure out a little bit against the Eagles in the second half, a game that Chris was on. That one came down to a last-second field goal as far as the spread was concerned. So I'm going to pass on this one and say if you're going to play a number, play on the total, play on the under. As there's a lot of injuries, and I think the Bears' defense is going to stand up in a division game to make this a low-scoring one. All right, the next game we have on tap for you. Greg has a play in the Bills versus the Browns, which I am calling the squarest play of the week. I think that Greg is aware of that, but he's going with the Bills anyway. Take a listen to the explanation.
So I brought up the Bills to you guys several days ago, and I still haven't heard anything. I'm on the Bills +3, and I think the deal with the Bills this year have been they lose to mediocre teams and they beat bad teams, and there's been no evidence so far this year that the Browns are anything but a bad team. Their defense isn't really playing all that well. Their offense is ranked in like the bottom 6 or 7 in the NFL. So, pardon me. So when I'm looking at this matchup, the Bills are 3-0 on the road. The Browns haven't won yet at home this year, so that's an advantage on my end. And I really just, before when we bet against the Bills and it was a 17-point line, that was just too many points, right? And the Bills haven't earned that, but they also haven't earned being a 3-point road dog going into Cleveland, where they've got just tons of issues. So I like the situation. There's no look ahead. There's potentially a little bit of a divisional look ahead for the Browns, except for the fact that it's pretty much so a must-win situation. every single time, but give me the 3 points. I like Buffalo on the field. I love them with the points, so that's what I'm going to play.
Okay, so my take is I can't understand why the Browns would be favored against just about any team in the league at this point, let alone a Buffalo Bills team that has a defense that has shut down just about everyone. The one thing I will throw in there for you is that the Browns have been able to run the ball this season, and with Kareem Hunt coming back for them, I think you've got two really good backs in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb who will be available for the Browns. That being said, Greg and I were discussing last week when they were taking on the Broncos that the Browns are a bad team that really shouldn't be favored against anybody, and the fact that they were was really just disappointing, especially on the road against Denver, and they couldn't beat a rookie quarterback in that situation. That being said, I think that there is just something fishy about this line. There's no way that they should be favored against the Bills team that is 6-2 so far this season. I think the squarest play on the board is to go with the Bills, and I think that there's something a little bit suspicious about it. I think that the Browns have been pretty successful when they go with their two tight end sets, and I think they're going to continue that this week against the Bills. Look, I think that the Bills still win this game, but I feel like it's going to be one of those 1-point wins where the Browns end up covering. The Bills' defense is one of the best in the league, but if there is a weakness for them, it's been the rushing game. They're allowing more than 110 yards a game, which is like middle of the pack in the league toward the bottom half. So I think that the Browns will try and exploit that. And I look at the Browns team a lot like I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. If Jameis Winston, or in this case with the Cleveland Browns, if Baker Mayfield can avoid turning the ball over, then I think that they can have some success. The problem is Baker hasn't been able to do that all season. He's got 7 touchdowns compared to 12 interceptions. I think that maybe that comes back down to reality a little bit, and I think that the Browns are able to keep it close. But to be honest with you, if I was going to make a play in this game, I can't justify betting the Browns. The only way I would do it is saying it's one of those fishy line moves that you just can't play and you think somebody knows something that you don't. I couldn't give Greg a justification earlier in the week for the Browns being -3 or 2.5, 3, depending on where you're seeing it in this game. But I'm not willing to go on the other side with the Bills in this one. So that's my take on that. The next game we're going to go to is Baltimore taking on Cincinnati. Now, Baltimore is at Cincinnati in this one. Earlier in the year, when Cincinnati was at Baltimore, we told you we loved the Bengals in a backdoor cover situation. But let's see if Chris Portente is sticking to his guns in that principle in this one.
The Baltimore Ravens are laying 10 on the road to Cincinnati. Now, if you recall, the last time these two teams faced off, we told you that Cincinnati would backdoor cover. And what did Cincinnati do? They backdoor covered, just like we told you. This week, I personally think the Ravens are going to blow them out. But all those reasons why we told you that the Bengals were going to backdoor cover last week, last time they played in week 6, those numbers still hold true. So I feel safe taking the Ravens money line this week rather than lay the points because of those reasons. You're going to have to lay big wood to do so. But the Ravens winning this game is probably the safest bet in the NFL this week. So I don't mind laying the big wood to make a few shekels. You know what they say? Sometimes pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So sometimes you got to lay some money lay some big money to make a little money. But at the end of the day, you made some money. And here are those stats again. Let me remind you of those stats. The Bengals have now lost, including this week 6 game I told you about. The Bengals have now lost 7 straight divisional games. And they are 8-4 against the spread in the last 12. But they are 8-4 against the spread in the last 12 versus Baltimore. Okay, they find a way to cover against Baltimore. As bad as they are, losing 7 divisional games in a row, they find a way to cover the spread when they play Baltimore. Just like they did in week 6 when they told you they would, and we made some money. The Ravens are just 3-13 against the spread in the past 16 games, including that week 6 game, when they are favored by 10 points or more. They were favored by 10.5 points that game when Cincinnati backdoor covered and we had them. Okay, but, and here's the big but, in those games, 3-13 against the spread, 15-1 straight up. 15-1 straight up. And if you watch that game in week 6, never at any point did you think the Bengals were taking a lead or late in the game or winning that game. You never thought that. And you had to cross your fingers to get the backdoor cover, but all the numbers we gave you, all the stats we gave you held true, and they backdoor covered. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't backdoor cover this week and they get torched. But those numbers rang true for us once, and I hate to go against them again, so I'd much rather lay the big wood to make a few dollars. So I'm going to go with the money line this week and the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, Chris, I'm calling this the cop-out pick of the week. When you pick a 10-point favorite in a game as a money line winner, I mean, that's got to be a complete cop-out. The risk-reward factor in there is terrible as far as I'm concerned. Look, I'm not laying the 10 with Baltimore in a division game on the road, but that being said, I'm not taking the Bengals or laying the money line in this one either, which I think is probably around minus 500. Here's the thing. Yes, the Bengals have a quarterback that we don't know who he is, and the problem with that is I don't think that the Ravens know who he is either. So while we might see the advantage in Andy Dalton being out of the game, even if the quarterback is less talented than Andy Dalton is under center, the thing is, the Baltimore Ravens, who play the Cincinnati Bengals 2 times a year, know the tendencies of Andy Dalton at this point. So it's a little bit easier to predict what he might do. I don't think with Ryan Finley, I think that's his name, Chris, under center, I don't think they know his tendencies yet. And I always worry about an 0-8 team. And there is word that A.J. Green might be back for this one. Not sure if that's going to happen. The other thing is I think this is a little bit of a letdown spot for the Bengals. You got them coming off that huge win on Sunday night against the Patriots. And the fact that I heard Lamar Jackson was a little under the weather this week. I can't go and swing all the way around to go to the Ravens in this one. My play would be take the Bengals plus 10 if I'm going to play this game at all, but the risk reward for the money line just isn't worth it for me. All right, with that being said, we're going to move on to another game that both Chris and Greg have a play on. The Carolina Panthers are visiting the Green Bay Packers. The line pretty much between 5 and 5.5 right now out there. That's the Green Bay Packers favored by 5 or 5.5 at Lambeau Field. They're coming off that embarrassing loss against the San Diego Chargers. Aaron Rodgers says that's exactly what they needed to right the ship. So how do you guys feel about this one?
Okay, the Carolina Panthers this week are getting 5 in Lambeau Field from the Green Bay Packers. Now, here's a November trend for Week 10. Here's the first and actually the only November trend I have for this week. And believe it or not, since 2015, the Green Bay Packers are 1-5 straight up and 1-5 against the spread at home in November. Hard to believe. I know, hard to believe. 1-5 straight up and 1-5 against the spread in November home games. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. On the flip side, the Carolina Panthers are 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread in their past 5 road games. 2 opposite sides of the coins, okay? Both of them favor Carolina. Also, Carolina has covered 4 straight games as a dog of 5 or more points at kickoff. 3-1 straight up. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, they were getting 6 points from the San Francisco 49ers when they gave up a 50 and happened to be a week we picked them as our hashtag Wingfoot lock. But if you also remember, at kickoff, that line went down to 4.5, in some places 4. It drastically dropped. Okay? So keep an eye on this line. If it stays at 5 or goes higher, we're in good shape. Okay? So I say we follow the November trend this week. We're going to take the Panthers. We're going to take the points. I personally, I'm telling you right now, if you want to put a little sprinkle on the money line this week on the Panthers, not only would I not be surprised, I kind of think the Panthers are in a spot this week. I think they're beating Green Bay this week in Lambeau. I think the Panthers are going to win the game outright. I definitely love them getting the 4.5. All right. So the Carolina Panthers this week is a strong play.
Carolina is jumping out to me as well. Just in this situation, I mean, I know the Packers are coming off that big loss, right? So that's one of those things where, don't overreact to that. But nobody's overreact to it. They're still a 5.5-point favorite. Vegas hasn't overreacted to it. They're still giving me 5 points, or 5.5 points, or 5 in most markets. And Carolina looks pretty good. I think the questions about who's going to be quarterbacking for the remainder of the season, I think those questions are done. I don't know that those things explain the big loss to the 49ers, but Carolina's been playing good under Kyle Allen. 5-1? And if I'm getting 5.5 points on the road at Green Bay, I'll take, I kind of like Carolina on the field, if not with the 5.5 points. Basically, if they follow the way to beat Green Bay to a T, then they can do it. Carolina is set up to play football that way. So I think in these games that we've watched exposure to the Green Bay Packers, the Chargers ran all over them with a really subpar offensive line. They just gashed them on the run, and the Eagles did the exact same. They loaded up on the run, and I think that's the formula for winning that game. And I think Carolina is equipped for that. Quite frankly, I think they're better with that, and then they just kind of choose their spots there on play action to throw with Kyle Allen. So I like that situation. So from that side of things, I will take Carolina plus I'm seeing it here. I'm just going to quote 5.5 because I'm seeing it here at 5.5.
Okay, maybe I'm a little bit gun shy for a couple reasons. The last 2 times we took the Carolina Panthers in the Wingfoot locks, they let us down, giving up more than 40 and more than 50 points defensively. I think this is a tough spot for them, catching the Green Bay Packers coming home, coming off that just really flat game against the San Diego Chargers. I think that for everything on face value, this should be a really tight game. Green Bay has struggled a little bit against the run. It's definitely been the weaker part of their defense, as they've allowed about 133 yards per game on the ground. And you figure that Christian McCaffrey would be able to exploit that, and the Carolina Panthers would be able to exploit that. I think you're going a little bit to the cold weather in Lambeau. It's supposed to be pretty cold out there this week. So now we need to start paying attention if we haven't been already. You should always be paying attention to the weather. But the weather is going to start to really play a factor in these games. But the thing about that is I think that running games are what end up traveling here. I think that the Panthers have the better running game of these two teams, and I'm a little gun shy, so I'm not going to jump on board as adamantly as I think you guys are, but I think that the Carolina Panthers are the play in this one, that or pass, especially because I think the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback are the public play, and I love fading the public. All right, our next game that we're going to head to is the Los Angeles Rams heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. And the Rams right now, 3.5-point favorites in this one. Chris Portente has a play that he likes. I'll let him take it from here.
The Rams are laying 3.5 points this week on the road to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, now, we have some serious stats in this game. Serious stats in this game, so pay attention closely. First of all, Sean McVay has never, I repeat, never. We have stepped up our game from 0 stats to never stats, okay? Sean McVay has never, I repeat again, never lost a regular season game to an AFC team. Since 2017, the Rams are 10-0. 10-0. You got that, Joe? 10-0 straight up, and 7-2-1 against the spread against AFC teams. Okay, so we have a never, and we have some serious numbers there, and we're not even done here. We're going to continue. Sean McVay also has never, I repeat, never lost a regular season game in the Eastern time zone. Never, ever lost a regular season game in an Eastern time zone. That's 2 never stats on the same team in the same game. Okay? They are 6-0 straight up and 6-0 against the spread in Eastern time zone regular season games. We're going to argue with those numbers? I'm not arguing with those numbers, okay? But there's a flip side. When something always seems too good to be true, it usually is, and here's why. Steelers have lost 3 straight versus NFC teams, which that fares well if you like the Rams. But they are 5-1 against the spread in their past 6 versus NFC teams. So they're losing these games, but they're covering. Okay, and also the Steelers have been 3 or more point underdogs at home. Okay, 3 or more point underdogs at home under Mike Tomlin only 5 times. That's only happened 5 times where they've been playing at home and they've been an underdog at 3 points or more. Okay, in the previous 4 times that's happened, the Steelers are 3-1 against the spread, 2-2 straight up. Okay, so for those reasons, I'm going to take the Rams this week money line rather than lay the 3.5 points. But we got 2 never stats on the same team in the same game. I'm not going against never stats. Okay, I could see a way maybe with the Steelers have strong enough numbers here to maybe cover this spread and be come down to the wire in a last field goal game or a couple of point different game like they played last week. Okay, but I like the Rams and their never stats. So you know what they say. Never say never, so that's why I'm going to go with the Rams money line this week rather than lay the 3.5 points, okay? So Rams money line this week against Pittsburgh on the road.
All right, Chris, so the first thing I got to say to you is never and 0 are the same thing. I know it's your birthday week, buddy, and I'm giving you a hard time this week, but never and 0 mean the same thing. So it doesn't matter that it's never happened before because that means it's happened 0 times, as we like to say. I think you're talking out of both sides of your mouth on this one. You're talking about all the advantages that Tomlin has had as a home underdog, and obviously you're talking about the advantages that Sean McVay has had on the road. I get going with the money line in this one if you're going to play it. I think that both of these teams still have a lot to play for. You're looking at the Rams, who, if Seattle loses, are right there in the NFC wildcard race, or actually even if Seattle wins against the 49ers, then there's a lot to play for there still in that division. And the Steelers have that division still within reach at 4-4 coming into this one. I see that the line is moved to 4, Rams -4 in some places, and I'm definitely not willing to lay 4 with the West Coast team coming east for this one. The good thing is it's a 4 o'clock start for the Rams, which I think helps benefit them a little bit in here. When I look at the talent on both of these teams, this really shouldn't be a close one, and I would go with the Rams. But based on all the numbers that you gave me, I think that the money line is the play. Right now I'm seeing it at Rams -200, so shop around, look for that. But for me, this one's a stay-away game. I think this is going to be hard fought. I think this one comes down within a field goal. If I'm playing the number, I think I'll take the 4 with the Steelers. If I'm going to go your route, I think you just pick a winner. I'll take the Rams in this one and lay the 200. I think this lands on a field goal either way. All right, our next game is probably my favorite pick of the week, not because I think that it's a surefire winner, but you really got to admire somebody who sticks with the Miami Dolphins as Greg has this season. He's been pretty accurate with them the last couple weeks, and he is on them again as they head to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Go ahead, Greg.
I'm going Miami plus the 11. Hoyer didn't look bad, and I think you can do a lot worse than Brian Hoyer as a backup, but The Dolphins have looked pretty good the past couple of weeks, which is kind of funny to say, but they've been covering, and they've been in every game, or they've been good for a back end cover in those games. So beating the Jets, and then that Pittsburgh game, they got out to a nice win. They've just been putting up enough points that if you're getting double digits with them, I'll take the points. So you got Fitzgerald versus Hoyer, and I like that, and I like that they got their first win. So I like the Colts to win, but double digit points I think is way too many.
Greg, I love this pick this week. I mean, if you are buying the Miami Dolphins high, this is the time to be buying them high. So you're probably not getting the best price on the Dolphins, given the fact that they're coming off their first win of the season against the Jets in a game where I'm going to say that the Dolphins looked good in comparison to a Jets team that was not getting snaps out of the shotgun correctly, that was just giving up sacks left and right. So compared to the Jets, the Dolphins look good last week. I will throw in the fact that they're playing a backup quarterback in Brian Hoyer. You know that I think Brian Hoyer is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. I don't think the guy gets credit. I think he could have made it as a starter if he had a better situation around him throughout his career. However, one thing that has been absolutely true this season is that you bet against the Indianapolis Colts when T.Y. Hilton is not in the game. He is out this week with a calf. I'm not saying that the Dolphins are going to pull off the upset as they go into Indianapolis. However, I do think that they managed to keep it close enough, 10.5 or 11, depending on where you see it out there. Obviously, 11's a little bit better, but 10.5 not a key number. As long as he's getting it more than 10, I like going with the Dolphins there. And we talked about the bad sushi. They had let us down. They've been blown out in so many games. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick at the quarterback. I like that you got guys in there right now who are not the starters, who are fighting for jobs in the NFL, right? There's one thing when you know you're good enough to be in the NFL and you're on a bad team and just don't want to be there anymore. It's another thing when you are hungry and you're just trying to show either the Dolphins or another team in the league that you are capable of playing in the NFL, and so you will be playing hard. I don't think there's any quit in this team this week, or at least these players, I should say. I don't think there's any quit in these players this week. I think they keep it close against the Colts, and I like the Colts to run out the clock a little bit in this one with that running game. Over under 43.5 might take a play on the under in this one as well. I'll go with the Dolphins and take the 10.5 points if you can get it. And that brings us to our Wingfoot lock of the week. Obviously, it has been a 500 season so far for the Wingfoot lock. A push last week is exemplary of what this season has been for the Wingfoot lock, but I will tell you that whether you win or lose, don't tell me you're on the right side of the game. If you lost, the winning side is always the right side. We don't make any excuses about a push. So this week, we are going back to the Seattle Seahawks game as they play on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. Chris Portente, who do you like in this one and why?
Okay, here we go. Seattle is getting 6.5 points on the road from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, last time we went against the San Francisco 49ers, it happened to be a Wingfoot lock that we put on the Carolina Panthers, and Carolina gave up 50. But you know what? I'm going back to the well because I have some serious numbers here, and this is why I like Seattle getting 6.5 points. First of all, over the past 30 years, San Francisco is 21-5 straight up in Monday night games, 18-7-1 against the spread. Okay, I personally believe that a lot of those stats from San Francisco's golden years. Okay, all their golden years are represented in that stat. And maybe they're about to be golden again, and that's possible. But let me tell you something right now. Russell Wilson in this spot, he's platinum. Has been platinum, and I'm pretty sure he will be platinum. And this is why. Since 2013, Russell Wilson is 8-2-1 straight up. and 7-3-1 against the spread in road primetime games. Those are serious numbers right there. Also, the Seahawks are 9-1 versus San Francisco in their past 10 games. 9-1. Okay? Now, this is only the 6th time. This is the stat I love. This is the stat I love, and this is really why I'm taking this team this week. This is only the 6th time Russell Wilson is a dog, an underdog of 6 or more points. And in the last 5 of these 6 times, the Seahawks are 5-0 against the spread, 2-3 straight up. 5-0. 5-0 against the spread when Russell Wilson is an underdog of 6 points and more. And 2-3 straight up. They've actually won a couple of those games, okay? So this is what I'm telling you right now for the Wingfoot lock in Week 10. Take Dangerous and the Seahawks with the points and lock it up. That is Week 10's Wingfoot lock. Seattle on the road against the undefeated San Francisco 49ers, and Russell Wilson putting on a primetime show against Jimmy Garoppolo and hanging tight. Maybe they can sneak out a win. I'm not sure, but I know they're covering this 6.5 points, and that's this week's Wingfoot lock.
Okay, Chris, I am right there with you in this one. We're talking about a division battle here between a 7-2 team and an 8-0 team. Look, I have not been high on Seattle this year, but I said last week one of the reasons I really like them against Tampa Bay is because I thought it was a look-ahead game to the Seattle Seahawks, to the San Francisco 49ers in that division rivalry. And so if they looked ahead, well, this is the game they were looking ahead to. Now, normally you would think that the San Francisco 49ers have a little bit of an advantage here, and they do because they're coming off a little extra rest playing on the Thursday night game against the Arizona Cardinals, but I still question the health of some of the offensive line there. Also, we know that Robbie Gould is out for this one. He's been a very reliable kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, and without him, maybe you're not kicking a field goal. Maybe you're kicking a field goal that you miss or an extra point. We know how valuable those have been. And then also, George Kittle, their stud tight end, is doubtful for this game. So with that, if you can get the Seahawks, especially plus the 6.5, I really like it in this one. I think that this is going to be a close game either way. I wouldn't be shocked if the Seattle Seahawks go in to San Francisco and upset them. There's a lot to be said when you've played a team before and you've beaten them before. There's not a huge turnover in personnel for the San Francisco 49ers. And also, Jimmy G looked great in his last game. I think that he's due to have one of those bad games where he has a couple of the turnovers. I think that at least keeps it close. If not, the Seattle Seahawks managed to win in this one. Excuse me, I'm holding in a little bit of a burp. That's why I'm making that awkward face. I think this game is going to be really close. I think both teams want to run the ball, so one other thing that I might look at is playing the under in this game. Right now I see it at 47.5, but with that said, I am all in favor of the Wingfoot lock, the Seattle Seahawks plus 6.5 out there. So let's review the picks for you one more time. This week, right now, Chris Portente likes the Arizona Cardinals over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Take the points in that one, he says. He says take the Baltimore Ravens money line, the Carolina Panthers plus the points. Greg Coyle on that one as well, and I'm on that one as well. He likes the Los Angeles Rams money line over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then, of course, the Wingfoot lock of the week is the Seattle Seahawks plus 6.5. Greg likes 2 road dogs, the Detroit Lions and the Buffalo Bills plus 3. He also likes the Miami Dolphins plus 11 as they head into Indianapolis. So those are the picks for Week 10. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you enjoy the games, and we hope you got plenty of winners this week. We're going to start the streak 4-4-1 so far through 9 weeks. The Wingfoot lock will end positive, and that starts this week. Get on board, let us know your thoughts, and please don't forget to like, share, review, all that good stuff, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcast. Please tell your friends, and otherwise we just have some fun here. So, for Chris Portente, Greg Hoyle, and myself, Joe Messeri, thanks for listening to this week's edition of the Wingfoot Locks. We'll be back next week. Talk to you then, everybody.